Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Modern Lending Podcast live. We are cruising through January. I can't believe it's 2021. Really excited about our guest. As you guys know, if you're following along, we're doing a 4-part series on brand. Oh my gosh, personal branding is so important. It is a massive differentiator. There's tons of confusion around it, and it can be overwhelming. So I'm going to bring on one of the funnest people I know on social media, Raquel Borras. She is the CEO and founder of True to You Branding, but she's been in loan, she's been in a lot of stuff. But man, her energy, her authenticity, what she brings to the world, it's just so cool. And I want to showcase her and have a dialogue to encourage you guys to turn the camera on and bring your brand to the market and make an impact. So without further ado, let's rock and roll.
With the real world.
Okay. Hi, Raquel. Good to see you.
Well, I was going to start like really jamming. It's a good thing that you stopped me.
So everybody that's tuning in, first of all, we're live on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and all the fun stuff. This is also going to be an audio podcast later for the pure audio people. But this is really fun. So this is interactive. We'll have comments come in. But here's what we're talking about. We're talking about brands and branding and why it's so important. And I figured you have such a great angle on this, such a great enthusiasm, that it would just be a really fun conversation to dig into why you decided to go like all in on this, because you really did. You really were like, I'm going deep.
Yeah.
What was that journey like? What was the jump off point like? Like, give everybody a little bit of that like experience.
Okay. So first, can I tell everyone out there that I am fangirling right now? Because we all know that there's certain people in the industry, and being that I was in the mortgage industry for a good 6 years, you know, there gets a point where there's like those people that you follow and you see what they're doing online and you think, okay, if that person reaches out to me at some point in time, I know that I'm doing something right. And you're one of those people. The last person is Chelsea Pites. So if she eventually listens to this, if Chelsea Pites gets me on her podcast, then I know that I've like full circle truly made it. So thank you. But all right, jumping point. When I decided to go off the cliff.
Yeah, I love what you're doing, and I feel like you have a message that people need to hear. And you know, my salespeople. So you know, I love leading local professionals. These are the crazies that are out in the streets, you know, looking to build relationships, get loans. You know, and it starts with brand, and it also ends with brand, because if you're invisible and you have no brand, you get immediately judged and disqualified and discounted, and it's no good.
No bueno. No.
Branding. Share with everyone.
I don't know. It was the beginning of last year, January. I had been with Main Street Home Loans for a good year doing their branding. So I was getting paid to be visible. So that was kind of the difference too, right? Is like my boss would laugh because he was very anti-social media, but he knew how important branding was. So they bring me on and he was just like, every time I freaking put on LinkedIn or Facebook, you're there. I'm like, well, that's what you pay me to do. So I knew I was doing something right.
Well, I mean, you've got over 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. I mean, you're clearly doing something right.
Yes. And I tell people that I could have double that because I've been on LinkedIn for probably about 8 years now, but I really make it a point to connect with people that make sense. And that's where, you know, the whole like-minded building relationships for me, that's really important. And so when I was building my brand with the mortgage industry, I had a lot of people reaching out to me and I thought, well, I want to be able to help folks in all companies, different industries. And so that's why I went ahead and went out on my own. Right. And then obviously with the pandemic, it did take a little bit of a turn because for those folks that know me, I'm not a salesy person. Like it's really hard for me to be like, hey, I'm a brand strategist, like hire me. I don't know. It's just tough. I don't do like the marketing messages and the, you know, outbound lead generations, whatever tools they have, CRMs. I have none of that. Like I tell people that I am like grassroots. I think I'm very different in that respect because I kind of do the opposite of what everybody else is doing, but I do it because I know how, if I can stand out and be different, then that in itself is going to put me in a position that not many folks are willing to do, you know, be themselves and just be kooky.
Let's unpack that a little bit, Raquel. Let's start with that. Like, how do you, as you consult people for branding and they're like, oh, what do I do? A lot of people have a misconception of what this means. They think they need a tagline. They think they need all these different like superfluous things. What do you start with somebody who's like, I'm ready to start a brand or my brand. What do I do? Like,
the first thing I ask them is like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, what is the why? And we all you talk about it. You've talked about it with Chelsea, with Josh, that's the thing is like, I equate all of this like when people want to lose weight, right? We all know what we really have to do. We got to diet and exercise, but everybody wants like that fad diet, something like that quick fix. It's the same thing with branding. It's like there's certain things that you have to follow. And, it's the content, the being yourself, the story, the why, all of those things. And so that's something that's very consistent throughout is your why. Like, why are you a loan officer? You're trying to help people, have their American dream by owning a home. Like, that's a big deal. So you have to kind of showcase that why, like your passion behind it. Like, that's how people are going to be drawn to you. They're not going to be drawn to you because you're telling them, certain types of loans or rates. It's like, hey, I really want to help you get into this home. And this is how I'm going to do it. And when people see that, like, they just are like, okay, I want to work with that person because I know that they really are doing this for the right reason. They're not doing it because everybody's freaking buying a home right now and the mortgage industry is like on fire.
It's so true. And I so agree with you. Everyone is talking about social media, and with COVID, we got forced into digital a lot more, right? We got forced into the internet and into social media. And so you hear all these things like do videos, get on there, and people are forgetting to start with their why.
Yeah.
And they're just filming content because someone said, go do content. And they're like, okay. And you can see it. There's an emptiness in them.
Yeah.
They're robotic. It's not fun. Yeah.
It's not fun and no one's really pay attention to you. I mean, if you think about it, if you have a handful of loan officers and they're putting out the same content of, once again, what loan programs we have, the rates, and you're educating, which is great. You should educate. But if that's like what you're constantly doing, but then you have like this loan officer in there that's doing, different videos, believe me, when people scroll through, they're going to stop at that loan officer, the one that's actually doing it in a way where someone can connect emotionally with that person. Mm-hmm. We're all human. It's like the emotional aspect is so important. I think what happens is they think business, I need leads, I need clients, and they forget like there's emotion involved with that.
Yes. I mean, everyone in my profession knows that there's a huge likability factor into getting referral business from real estate professionals.
Yes.
How good you are as a loan officer, if they don't like you, they're not going to give you business.
No, and it doesn't matter how much of a big wig you are, because believe me, like being in the industry, I have a lot of friends that are big wigs, and I would never work with them. I'm sorry, because I know I wouldn't do well with them. I know that some of them are not as sincere as I think they are. I mean, I'm going to be honest. There's plenty of people out there that I know that they're just like putting themselves out there in a way that's not really who they are, not true to them. And that's why I call my company True to You Branding, because it has to be true to you. And I feel like enough of us that are smart enough can see right through that.
One thing, I can. Let's go down this train of thought here so people can get some insight.
Okay.
Because sometimes there is a lot of fakeness in content. There's a lot of branding that is inauthentic, that there's not their true self. And some of people are afraid to show their true self. They have this insecurity about like, well, if people really knew me, they're not going to like me, or they're not going to want to do business with me. And so how do you combat that kind of a mindset?
That's a tough one, because I'll tell you this, I still have moments where I have that imposter syndrome. Yeah. Or sure. I compare myself to others. Or, I think, gosh, you know what, if I really am who I am, this crazy goofball who's kind of a train wreck, kind of a hot mess, but in a good way, I'm going to totally turn people away. But at the end of the day, like the people I turn away, those aren't the people that I would want to work with anyways. I mean,
Yeah.
I've come to realize that. And what's really great too, Alec, is that because I am who I am and I'm just myself, the people that reach out to me that want to work with me already feel like they know me, and they already feel like they know what they're going to get. So I don't have to sell myself. Like they're like, hey, the reason why I'm coming to you, Raquel, is because yes, I know you might not be the most popular brand strategist, or you might not have been one that has like the most experience, or, you know, the whatever certifications or whatever it is that you to be a branding strategist. But they're like, I love what you do. I've been following your journey. And most of them, because they have followed my journey, they have seen that I've shown up every day. I've been consistent, but I've been me. And they're like, that's what I want. So I want to work with someone that is walking the walk. That's not just doing this like, hey, do 1, 2, 3 and you'll be great and you'll get leads. It's like everyone's different.
Yes.
Like people forget that what works for me might not work for you. And that's okay. That's okay.
And that also leads to the fact that uniqueness creates unique audiences, and your style, your energy, your persona attracts the right audience for you.
Yeah, I found my tribe because of it. Like finally this year, I have finally found the people that I want to surround myself with. They're all like-minded, and some of these people are huge on social media, but because they also have the same thought processes as I do of like, hey, we're just trying to make an impact. We're trying to help. Yes, we have big personas on here. Yes, we have a huge following, but at the end of the day, like we connect in a way where they become like family. I mean, one of them is Michael Ray, who was in the mortgage industry, and he and I connected through that. He and I are like brother and sister at this point. And that's how I look at being on social media. I'm like, I'm going to find my people.
Yes.
People that are going to be like in my life for the rest of my life, like to the grave. And for me, that's so much more important than whether or not I find a client or someone like wants to work with me. Like that to me does not matter at all when it comes to building relationships and people.
And I just want everyone to hear that, because there's two themes there that I want everyone to understand. When you embrace your story and your authentic self, when you showcase who you really are, you attract this unique audience. Like Raquel's just speaking into it. You're going to attract the ideal client, right? Because we've all worked with clients that are nightmares, and we're like, wow, we just don't sync, and this is terrible, and I'm miserable. We've all had referral partners and partners that were like, oh my God, same thing. This is terrible. How do I not do this? But when you play this game and you're true to yourself, you attract those customers who want to work and those partners who want to work with you. And Raquel, you're a great example of that, because everyone needs to hear that. Because sometimes
I mean, I don't do marketing. I don't once again, I don't put myself out there in a way of like, hey, hire me. A lot of people actually come to me like, wait, I really don't know what it is that you do. You're kind of all over the place. And I'm like, well, that's kind of part of my brand as well, being all over the place, because I am very multifaceted person. Like I have so many different interests and so many different passions. And so for me, it can be confusing to others, but the fact that they're still reaching out and they're like, hey, can you kind of explain a little bit more about what you do? I love what you're doing, but I'm still trying to grasp it. That's okay, because they're still reaching out to me and we're still having a conversation. And so that's where like there's also, I think, a little bit of a disconnect with a lot of loan officers. They think that they need to put themselves out there as a loan officer, or else nobody will know that they want business, or that you can hire them. They forget that. They think, okay, well, if I don't talk about loans and where I work, well, then I'm screwed. No, you're not. Oh, there's my girl Megan. I told her to hop on. I told her, I'm like, what are you doing that if you're not at least showing who you are and showing up? And once you show up and you just start talking about things that interest you, about just any day life, people are going to slowly connect with you emotionally. And then when they decide I need to buy a home and they realize, oh, wait, they're a loan officer and I already feel like such a connection with that person, I'm going to work with that person. Like I told you, Alec, that if I move to Arizona, I already know my loan officer.
Totally.
And he's with Loan Depot. Sorry, everybody else. But because I already feel this connection with him, just the way we've interacted, I'm like, this is a cool dude. that's my guy, right? And I feel like I have people in different states where I already know, like if I move and say, I know who I'm going to hire, I know what realtor, and it has nothing to do with their clientele, like how many people they've served. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with whether or not I feel like I can trust them. And in order to trust them, you have to feel like you know them. You have to like them. We say it all the time, but there's a reason why we say it all the time.
Ian, what's up, my dude? Thank you for hanging out.
Hey, Ian.
Fun conversation. Ian's just a rising star. So
yeah,
you said something that triggered me, and I've been waiting to talk about it because people need to hear this too. You said, and you put a post out on this on LinkedIn earlier. So I'm going to paraphrase it, but we're multifaceted human beings. We're not just like, if you're in a mortgage professional, like you get up on video and you're like, and you just go one trick. I'm a mortgage guy. Here's my thing. You're missing your humanity. And yet, and so, but there's a line there of like oversharing and like, what kind of dirty laundry should I really share? But this is a really important conversation. So I want you to lean into it. You're a multifaceted person. You have passions in different areas. So does everyone. And so like, where's the balance? Like, how much humanity should I show? How many other things that I'm interested in should I be talking about versus my profession to try to get leads?
I believe it's kind of like trial and error. It's getting to know who your network is, your audience, who's following you, because that's essentially what happened with me, is that I was like kind of treading water because I was like, all right, I'm going to post something and this kind might backfire on me. Like, for instance, when I posted about my mental health issues, about the fact that I had been depressed and attempted suicide when I was in college, I posted it for the first time on LinkedIn almost 2 years ago. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to backfire, because people are going to be like, why are you discussing this on a professional platform like OMG, TMI, all those things? Yeah. It was the complete opposite. And that's when I realized, okay, I have a really great network that I can trust. The fact that I've just shared this with them and they were so wonderful. Not one single person said anything negative. Not one. If anything, everyone's like, please, I'm so glad that you brought this up. This is so important in the workplace, our mental health, all of that. And so it just added fuel to the fire of like, well, I'm going to keep talking about it then. And then it just showed me that you can kind of go to the edge a little bit. But once again, I trusted my network because I'd been on LinkedIn for a while. I really did. And so I trust that what I put out there, they're going to embrace it and they're going to support me. And it's the same thing that I tell people, if you're new to social media, yes, you do have to watch how much you put out there at first, because let's be honest, some people might be like, whoa, who is this person? And they are sharing all this stuff. So it's a balance, right? Like and I think if you really just follow your inner voice will tell you. I really truly believe if you're self-aware enough and you know who follows you and you know who you're connected with, you're going to have a good sense of what's going to take and what's not going to take. I really believe that.
You said something really profound about this in the beginning, and you started with, what's your why?
Yes.
And I feel like even if you're going to share your personal story and be vulnerable and be open, it needs to be grounded in your why. Because to your point, like I've seen people, I'm sure you have, we all have, who it's very cringy and you're like, wow, that's an overshare. And sometimes it's not, because maybe it's not connected to this burning why that I could see and understand and know, hey, no, they're sharing this because of this. And like talk about your new YouTube channel too. Like, what's going on over there?
Yeah, well, see, that's my why. So my why has always been the same, where I just want to be someone that makes other people feel good. Like, I want to be kind, compassionate. I just want to make a positive impact.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what I do, it doesn't matter what industry, what profession, like, I just want to be that person. Yeah. And so that's always what I go back to. So I started a YouTube channel about a month ago, and I am having candid, unscripted conversations with kids of all ages. Super stripped down. Like, there's no editing, there's no music, we're not doing anything exciting. I'm just having a one-on-one conversation with a 12-year-old. I've had ones with 8 and 5-year-olds. I have one tonight with with Michael Ray's son, who's 15, who's a teenager. And so, hey, Kyle, yay. And the reason why I'm doing that is because part of my why is, once again, my word for this year is impact. And I feel like our youth right now, they are in so need of us to pay attention to them, to listen, to, have them feel loved, worthy, all those things. Because let's be honest, if we have kids that feel neglected and feel like there's doom and gloom in this world, it's only going to get worse, because as they get older, become adults, we're screwed.
Yep.
And so I knew I loved to talk. I've been on a ton of podcasts and lives, and I'm loving it. And so everyone's like, oh, you should be a host. You should do this. I'm like, yes, but I want to do something different. Once again, like, I want to do something that I feel is me. And I love kids. I'm total kid myself. We know that here. I'm 45 and I act like I'm 12 at times. And so I'm like honoring my inner child, and I am absolutely loving it. Like, I feel like I found my thing. But I'm still doing branding too. That's what's so cool, is that once again, I don't say that I do that, but people naturally are kind of gravitating towards me, like, hey, I also see you changing your brand a little bit, pivoting, which I think is really important too, where there's going to come a point where you put yourself out there in a way where you're like, maybe that's not kind of like how I want to be seen or where I want to go with this. It's okay to pivot. I mean, look at Madonna and Lady Gaga. Those women reinvent themselves all day long, but they stay relevant because they do that, because they're adapting with the times. And so it's okay that I'm a branding strategist, yet I am changing my brand a little bit. Like, it's all good, folks. I lose credibility because of it. If anything, I gain it.
Well, I do want to have the conversation deeper on this concept of pivoting and this concept of evolving and changing, because we just went through and are arguably in the middle of one of the largest pivots / changes of societal behavior, like, in our time, right?
Yeah.
So and specifically for local mortgage pros who are used to going out and meeting agents, having face-to-face meetings with customers, like, that's everything they value. And yet all of a sudden now it's like stripped away, and the forced change. And now there's new things like learning how to be on camera and learning how to do that well, so you don't sound terrible. And it's pivoting is very hard. It's very hard.
It is very difficult. And that's my guy. That's who, see, he knew I was talking about him.
Yeah, it's the hair for me. It's that, it's the windswept.
It's the Colombian thing for me. But yes, I mean, okay, repeat the question, because now see what happens is the hair comes on, and then you're like, woo!
Yeah, so for those of you listening, it's Chris Medine, so just sorry, he's ruining the podcast. Thank you, Chris. So I want to talk about pivoting and changing.
Okay, that's right.
There are people that are afraid of change. There are people where change hurts. I have mortgage professionals that have gone through they went through the hard labor of building a successful business. And now they're being forced to change how they do things. And they're like, they're pissed. They don't want to do it again. They don't want to go through the vulnerability and the pain of rejection and learning new things. They don't want to do it, but it's happening right now. So I want to talk about change and pivoting, and that it's okay. And you laid that up perfectly. So how do you help people through that?
That is a tough one. I'm not going to sit here and like blow smoke up your
absolutely
on that one. It is really hard, especially those that, like you said, are pissed. They're kind of like, are you kidding me? Like, I hate social media. Now you're telling me I have to get on it. And there's so many platforms and I don't know what to do. I mean, Clubhouse just came out and that was overwhelming for me. I kind of had to step back because I was going down a rabbit hole. So I just tell people, once again, like, listen to your inner voice, your heart. If it's telling you to just dabble in Facebook or just dabble on LinkedIn or Instagram, that's okay. And then baby steps, right? So yes, you should be on video. Yes, you should be out there putting content. But if you're not ready to do that, and Chelsea talks about this, and she just talked about it with you the other day, then start engaging, because when you engage, that's just as powerful as putting out content. Because what happens is when you're engaging with people's posts and you write in a comment, people are reading your comments. They're seeing what you're saying. So you're already showcasing who you are as a person. Yep. So like, for instance, on last Friday, I didn't have any content because my content is, I do it like right then and there, whatever in the moment. Like I don't prepare my content. I don't have a scheduling app, none of that. Like it literally is just like, oh, I'm going to talk about this. Like that's how it works for me. So for instance, on Friday, I woke up and I was like, all right, you know what? I might have posted something, but I dedicated the day to going to my LinkedIn and giving love. So nice. I went through my feed and I was like, okay, this is where I'm just going to focus on commenting on people's posts that resonate with me, that connect with me. And I'm going to make sure that I comment insightfully. Now, when I say insightfully, I mean like you actually paid attention and read the post, because it cracks me up when people are like, they'll ask a question and I sit there and I think, well, had they actually read the post or watched my video, they would have known the answer. So I know for a fact you didn't pay attention. So pay attention, like write something that makes sense and then have it be like your voice. I'm a smartass. I'm funny. My comments are pretty funny. And I don't know where Alec went, but yes. So when I comment, I make it my personality. So if I put little funny emojis or I'll just do something kind of fun, and when people read that, they automatically can tell that, okay, this chick right here, like she's got a good sense of humor. Totally. I want to connect with her. And so you fell off for a little bit and I just kept going, Alec.
Yeah, I for sure did. It's just we're live. I had no worries at all. I was like,
yeah, I was like, I'll just keep it going, keep it rolling. So I've had a lot of people reach out to me that say, hey, I saw one of your comments on so-and-so's post. I really like what you had to say. I really think like you'd be really cool to connect with. And then that's how it starts.
Yep.
And that's by me just engaging other people's content. You know, show up in any way you possibly can. And then it'll get easier. It definitely will. You'll get used to it a little bit more. It won't be so scary, especially when you start posting and you see people's reactions and they really start engaging. And you're like, oh, wow, like I'm starting conversations with people. I mean, my best friend, I got her on LinkedIn. I literally just like threw her to the wolves on LinkedIn.
So good.
And she is like, Raquel, that is the best thing that you ever made me do. She was on Facebook, Instagram, but she just wasn't finding like her tribe or building. She wasn't able to really connect and build relationships on those platforms. So with LinkedIn, she's already been on podcasts. She's already on lives. Because she's sharing her story and people are automatically connecting with her. People have no clue that she's a speech teacher or a speech therapist.
You know, I just want to echo it because the reality is if you want success, and what I mean by that is if you want relationships, you want influence, you want a chance to do a loan for somebody or sell a product or whatever you want, the core reality is you have to be where the people are. You can't be hidden. You can't be invisible. You'll never win. You'll never get noticed. You have to be where the people are. And that you have to be on camera and the podcast host. But it can mean simply you could just talk to people and make comments.
Simply talk to people. Yeah. Once again, like I equate it to as we're not at networking events, we're not at happy hour. So this is your way of smoozing and mingling, and like you've got to do it with just commenting and not only that, like if there's certain people that you've been following on social media or you've been connected with and you really want to work with them or you're really trying to get in front of them, just start engaging in their posts. Like I've connected with a couple people that are pretty big and kind of where I thought like out of my league. And I just was like, screw it. I'm just going to start engaging on their posts. Like what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. But let me tell you, I usually always get a response or a message like, hey, Raquel, I just want to thank you for always engaging in my posts. And I do the same thing too. Like funny, Mr. Medellin right here, he reached out to me to be on his podcast a while ago. And he reached out and I responded right away. And I thought it was the cutest thing because he goes, oh, wow, I can't believe that you totally responded. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're kind of a big deal. You're kind of a celebrity on LinkedIn. I'm like, what? But so he was even shocked. But I tell people all the time, like we're all like, like even the big people or whatever that you think are out there, like we're all human. So reach out. Like you'd be surprised.
That a little bit because we're in sales and so we prospect and we try to build relationships and we go after realtors. And so there's a difference between randomly sliding into someone's DMs with a business proposal, which is, or like a pitch, the grossest, rudest, weirdest thing. And then, actually like being interested in somebody. And commenting on their posts that you see every now and then without being a creep and going back 4 years on their Instagram handle and like liking videos from a long time ago. But
that's the best when you have like a new connection and suddenly you have like 50 notifications and they liked every single. I get that on LinkedIn too. I'm like, dude, or like, I get it.
You know the DM's coming any second when they've gone back in time. And by the way, sometimes it's flattering and meaning like I know people that gone back and looked at old content of mine and because I do that for people. Like I might connect with someone new on Instagram and be like, well, I want to go see what they've been up to. This is really cool. Like I found this, and then I accidentally like something from a long time ago. I'm like, oh no.
That's the funniest. Yeah, we were like, wow, how far back did this person go to see who I was?
Like, so share a little bit more about like etiquette. Share a little more about commenting etiquette or direct messaging etiquette. How can people do that well so that we don't look like we're cringy creeps?
I'm not a believer of the spammy messages. I know that people still do it because apparently like it's kind of working for them. So I'll give you an example. I have a video that I posted on LinkedIn. I made this video that was like, stop in the name of spam. Sorry, I can't sing. Before you break my heart, think it over. And I have a spam and then I have a little aching heart. And I send that to people when they spam me. And some people don't respond. Some people do, but I get their attention and then we create a conversation. And so that's what just happened this morning. I had a guy that had spammed me like 5 times and he was in marketing. And I sent him the video and he responded and he was like, wow, that's like the best response I've ever received. And we did engage in a little bit and then we were done. But like, I mess with people because I want them to realize like, hey, this is not working for you. Yeah. And that kind of working is
everyone knows it's terrible.
And so I'm not a big fan of that. If you're going to reach out to someone, at least once again, like if you saw something in their post that resonated with you, comment on that. Because believe me, if you know that someone took the time and energy for you, it's human courtesy to do the same in return. And that's what I do. If someone actually is taking the time to do that and message me in that way, I'm going to respond.
Yep.
Number one. Second, for those of you that are hopping on LinkedIn for the first time, do not tag 100 people on your post every time. Like, please. Like, I get it that we're trying to get engagement. We're trying to get views. I understand that. Yeah. But what are you doing? What you're just showing is it's like desperation. Like you're grasping at like straws of like, okay, I need to do whatever I can so someone sees this post. So I'm not a big fan of that. And I know some people out there are going to be like, okay, Raquel, you're an a-hole because I tag you all the time. I do get that. I mean,
sometimes nobody ever told them that like this is an etiquette thing.
Yeah. So it's the tagging. It's also like the generic, and maybe there's automated systems I think that do that too, like the robot thingies that great share, and it's like on all your posts, so you know that's not you.
Yeah, let's talk about this on LinkedIn because we're on etiquette on social media and building brands. It's all good because your brand is your etiquette, right? Like you act a certain way, I start perceiving you a certain way, and that's your brand now to me. So if we talk about etiquette, LinkedIn has the auto infill comments, right? Yeah. 3 options like auto infill, especially in DMs where you can like auto respond with a sentence. I know you auto responded.
Yeah, I don't do that. Even when I started my business, and this is once again why I tell people that I have such an amazing network and I really feel like they support me because I put in the work. So for instance, when I started my own business, I got, everyone gets a notification of like Raquel has a new job or whatever. I got hundreds of like generic messages, but I also got hundreds of non-generic. But I'll tell you this, I responded to every single message. Tell me if you sent me one and I didn't respond, because I swear I spent my Friday night and my Saturday morning responding to everyone without using the generic thing. I made sure that I commented like it was my own words to every single person. But it's because I feel like I go the extra mile to do something like that. In return, I have people going the extra mile when I do things and I post. So once again, guys, like
it's shortcuts. Like, why would you want your brand to be known as someone who takes shortcuts?
I know I wouldn't. Maybe some people do, just like how some people follow every fad diet that comes out. Like that's their thing. Like that's what they do. So there's certain people that they go out on social media and they do the hacks, or they go in engagement pods and 10 million of them. And you can tell too who's in engagement pods, which I'm not a huge fan of it, but I understand it. Like it's not a huge deal. Like that to me is not going to be like, whoa, but there's definitely things that people do to try to, get to whatever notoriety they're trying to get to, or visibility they're trying to get to. And I'm just like, it's a slow and steady race. I mean, there's a reason why there's an Aesop fable story on the turtle and the hare. You know what I mean? Like,
back to the
like history keeps repeating itself.
I know. And it's back to the first comment of what's your why? Do you want vanity metrics? Is that what gets you up in the morning? You want BS likes from random people in an engagement pod, or do you want 10 to 15 to 30 to 100 core customers that are going to give you business? That do you want them in your online community?
Yeah. And once again, that's up to the person, because there are going to be people out there that want that, and that's okay. I personally don't want that. I want to be someone that really connects with people. Like I love people. I truly do. I love building relationships. I love nurturing those relationships. Like for me, when people message me, I respond once again, if they did it in a way that makes sense. And I've built so many amazing relationships through that. And that's my why is connection. And so that's why I do what I do. It might not be right for everybody else.
So on the topic of self-promotion, Raquel, let's talk about, on the topic of etiquette, let's talk about self-promotion.
Okay. Yeah.
Talk about brand building, guys. And I'm seeing a lot of self-promotion on the internets. And so what's your take on self-promotion? Like posting your own Yelp reviews, your own, accolades, your own close on time speed on your last loan and how fast you closed it. What are your thoughts on this as a brand?
I personally am not a fan of that either, because at some point you're like, all right, that's great. Like, I get it. You're really good. Okay. So
well, you think you're really good.
Yeah, or you think you're really good. And that's where I go back to where most people don't care about the awards, all of that. Like if you have all these awards and you have all these accolades, but you're an a-hole, like, I don't know, like that's
yeah.
I think also with me, and that's where I'm kind of a little bit different too. I'm like super, I'm an empath, and I just really feel a lot of things, and I'm just really sensitive to those things. So for me, I can be a little bit overly sensitive. So so I never, even when I started my business, the pandemic hit, like I didn't talk about my business. I was just trying to give free value and trying to educate. And I was trying to make people laugh and smile. And oddly enough, that got me even more visibility. That got me more people reaching out to me to be on their podcast. It was incredible how when I didn't speak about business at all, like it helped.
No, it's not incredible. It's not incredible at all. And this is the fascinating thing that I want to have you explore with us on this as we kind of get to the end here. You mentioned social media, and you said it's kind of like a networking event or a happy hour. And I love that analogy.
Social media, you're being social.
So when you take that and you go to the physicalness of what a real happy hour is or a real network is, right? And we just go, okay, let's talk about a real one.
Yeah.
And you're coaching somebody on how to show up in a real social event.
Yeah, like you're walking up to the person, you're having a one-on-one. You're not like suddenly screaming to everyone, hey, Joe, hey, Kyle, hey, Chris, guess what? Like, I want you to hear my conversation. This is what's happening right now in this moment. You're not doing that. And that's what people are doing on social media, if you think about it.
Yes.
When they're tagging and they're doing all those things, like, that's what you're doing.
I walk up to you. Hey, Raquel, nice to meet you. By the way, I'd love to show you my new 5-star review on Yelp. Can I read it to you really quick? Okay.
Yeah.
Hanson is amazing. You're going to like this part. He closed my loan. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's like, hey, like, yeah, it's incredible. And that's the thing too, is like, let's also with social media, you're bypassing to the, hey, what do you do? Where are you from? A lot of that is being bypassed if you're putting yourself out there in a way where people already know you. So once again, when people reach out to me, I don't have to explain too much. They already know. So then we get past all the formalities and we get in the nitty gritty right away, which is really cool. That's one difference.
Yes.
So even like with Zoom calls, when people want to talk to you, it's like, I feel like we're more intentional about it. It's like, cause we have a time limit. So I know when I get on a call, it's kind of like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
And we get into there, and there's plenty of times, I will tell you, probably 90% of the phone calls that I have, we never talk business, ever.
Yeah.
Like, I hop on and I'm already like a train wreck. Like if I had just spilled coffee, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just spilled coffee and my daughter's just in the kitchen over there. I just did that. And then we'll start engaging in this like crazy conversation. But by the end of the conversation, we're like, oh my gosh, I love you. No, I love you. This is great. Let's do this again. And then maybe down the road, we'll talk business. But like, that's what I found is that I want to get to know who the person is. Like, I want to know what you like, what you don't like, what your kids, all of those things. Like, I really don't care about your business. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. So true, though. It's so true. And look, again, everyone has a different audience. Maybe there's somebody that is going to care about your business, and that's going to be the audience you attract. But I think that let's talk about this as we wrap down.
Okay.
How important is it in your experience is doing and learning? Because there are people that are stuck in the learning aspect, right? They're trying to absorb things. They're trying to master things. And so they're stuck in the not doing category. But then at the same time, there are people in the doing category, in my opinion now, I'd like to hear your thoughts, who aren't listening to what's happening as they're doing stuff. They're not stepping back and being like, was that effective? What happened? Let me pause and look at it again. They're just charging without listening. And there are people who are just thinking and not doing. What's your thoughts on all that?
Well, I just like Nike, just do it. Like, I really do believe that you've got to just do something. I had my anniversary of my first LinkedIn video several days ago, and it popped up. And it was 3 years ago. Oh my gosh, I had like the angle. To this day, my ex-husband and my kids make fun of me. And I posted it, I think last year, just be like, hey guys, you think I'm so natural in front of the camera? You think it's so easy for me? Let me show you that first video that I ever did. And people are like, oh my gosh, that's great. So yeah, like it's not going to come out looking great at first. Some of you might be naturals at it, and that's awesome. But like, just do it. I don't know how else to kind of like say it. There really is. It's just you getting out of your head. I think we just get in our head so much, and we're so focused on what other people are going to think when everybody else is focusing on the same thing. So if you think about it, no one's really like thinking about you. Like they're busy thinking about themselves.
Yes, that is. I love that. I say that all the time. I'm like, I know that this matters to you so much, and you're so nervous, but trust me, you know what the other person is thinking about? Themselves.
Exactly. They're worried about what that other person is, just a freaking domino effect. And so and if you think about it, how people love bloopers, right? There's a reason why they love bloopers. And that's why I put my bloopers out there all the time. And the reason is because people love to know that you're not perfect and that you're making mistakes. Yeah. So when you do a video and it doesn't come out great, believe me, more people are going to feel a connection with you because they're going to relate like, oh, that person's not perfect. Because believe me, we all think that. We all think like, I'm not perfect.
If you over script it and over produce your content and over manage it, you become a commercial.
Yeah. And
when you become a commercial, you lose your authenticity. Everyone sees through it. We're over marketed to anyway, and you lose your opportunity to create that human connection.
Yeah, so just get on there. And I love it because I have so many people that have reached out to me. And this is like where I just get so like, oh my gosh. I have people that message me all the time, or they'll tag me and they'll say, because of Raquel, this is my first video, or thank you to thank you, Raquel, for inspiring me to just do it. And I tell them, tag me on it so that I can comment and like, and I can share you to my network, because I always feel so proud. And I even had a guy, he mentioned me and Josh Pitts, a loan officer, and he had mentioned something like, thank you to Josh and Raquel. I've been following you. You've really been an inspiration to put myself out there, and it's really made a huge difference. Like, that's where it's so cool. And so that's why I'm like, just do it. And then for the folks that are on the other spectrum that are not listening and just going like crazy,
yeah,
take a moment and sit back and really think about how you are affecting the other person on the other end. And that's something that I really have thought about this during COVID. And I've changed the way I've post on Instagram and Facebook now, and even my stories. So I used to be that person that was just putting content out, like, so taking pictures of my food or taking pictures of like all this like stuff that just didn't make sense. If anything, I was like, why am I doing that? Am I showing off? Am I trying to validate that I'm like cool? Like, why am I posting this? And I realized that all I'm doing is making other people on the other end feel like shit because they don't have what I have, or because they're not as successful or as successful as they think I am, because I'm really not that successful. And so that's where I've really pulled myself back and had that kind of like inner conversation of like, Raquel, remember, there's a human being on the other end.
So good.
And that, like, you are making an impact. Like, people are paying attention to you. They're watching you. Like, do you want them to walk away feeling good when they see a post of yours? Or do you want to have them walk away feeling like crap or feeling unworthy or comparing themselves to you? Obviously, there's things that I put out there that people are still probably going to be like, oh, I wish I could do that or so forth. But I really do try to do it in a way that makes sense. And it's just not content. Like, I'm not putting out content just to put out content. I'm putting it out there for a reason.
Yeah. And that's how we started this podcast. That's how you started the podcast, Raquel, was just, what's the why? Why are you out there in social media? Because everyone's telling you to, but why? What impact do you want to make? What relationships do you want to make? Why are you here?
And if you really want to make an impact, the only way you're going to do it is by having visibility, by people seeing that. I mean, I know a lot of people get freaked out of like, oh, I don't want to seem self-serving, or I don't want to seem vain. It's like, listen, believe me, if you're leading with your heart and you're doing it in a very genuine, sincere way, people are going to know that you're not out here just for vanity. Like, they know that you're actually trying to do something to change the world and make an impact. Like, and how wonderful is that? The more people that you can touch and reach, the more impact you'll have. And that's kind of like where I'm at too, where I'm like, I want to be on all these podcasts. I want to be on all these lives, because I know what I'm doing with my Rock the Boat YouTube channel is doing something really good for our children. And it's not about me. Like, it really isn't. It's about these kids. And so that's why I naturally am like, yes, like, I'm going to be out there even more because I'm helping these kids.
You know, thank you for coming and hanging out with me today, Raquel. I know people are hearing this conversation and they're getting excited because this is not a complicated thing, my friends.
It's not.
There's some etiquette. There's some new stuff to figure out, like cameras and stuff. Sure. And you'll get better. And that's all good too. But there's also a great community of people out here that want to support you and be with you on the journey. Like, I love Raquel's comment, like, tag me. I want to support you. You know, we're all
like, don't be the person that like tags 10 million people, but like, if you tag me and it makes sense, like, I'm all for it. Like, I really am all for it.
And so, you know, we hit the core topics today. Raquel, what would be a final, I mean, and it's always hard, right? But like, what kind of like final statement comment would you make to a sales professional out there who's looking to get digital, who's trying to understand brand more? What would you say? What would you tell them?
You know, if there is someone that you've seen, that you followed, or that you resonate with and you really like what they're doing, reach out to them. Like, you'd be surprised how many people would be willing to help you and to give you tips and ideas. I tell you, people who reach out, I get that all the time, and I do help them. Like, I'm not charging them. I'm like, hey, you know, this is what I would do, or hey, I would, you know, maybe do that. Yeah, just reach out to those folks. And
then just follow them too, because you'll get tons of advice and feedback from what they're doing.
Follow them, engage with them, and you never know, they might end up being like a mentor of yours. I mean, I have several mentors that I never would have thought that I would have even had like any kind of friendships or relationships with them, just because I was ballsy enough to reach out. And now some of the connections that I have and the people that are in my corner, like, I still every now and then have to like pinch myself, but it's because I made the effort. Like, I'm being rewarded for the work that I'm putting in. I know how much work I've put into all of this. So I am appreciating it, and I'm really like owning it, and it's okay. Like,
it's the best.
It's all good.
Raquel, Thank you for being this ball of positivity and delight.
I know I'm such a rambler and I'm all over the place and I can talk on. So I hope I made sense.
You made it. I know that people listening to this, I mean, for everyone that commented, thank you. But I know that everyone else that's going to listen to this in the future is going to pull something, a little nugget to take into their own world. And so just continue being a badass. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you.
Friends, thank you. This wraps up another episode of the Modern Lending Podcast. I will see you guys on the internet. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.